Welcome to the last day of SCAI 2016. I'm Sheila Sahni, Chief Cardiology Fellow at UCLA, and I'm sitting here with the next generation of SCAI. And amongst the crowd, I have early career that are just graduating, as well as two gentlemen that are going to go into their interventional fellowship. And so we're going to have a really great conversation about what interventional year is like, not just in the nuts and bolts of the cath lab, but what it's like getting a job and really positioning yourself in the new arena of interventional cardiology. So Mayank and Chadi, you guys are going to start your interventional year. And I think when you look at national meetings, especially SCAI, you look at all the diversity of the tracks, quality, peripheral, coronary, structural, congenital, 5 different tracks. How do you choose? And are you worried that you need to do one or all? Tell me what you think about that.
I talk to too many people. Thanks, Sheila, first. I talk to too many people before I go to these meetings. I mean, everybody advised me just to focus on the coronary track at this point. Focus on the guide wires, some hands-on techniques, less on the structural side, because this is something either it's available at your institution, you can practice it, or otherwise you have to do it somewhere else. But my main focus all the time is antiplatelet, thrombosis, stents, wires, and guides. That's my focus for every meeting at this stage in my career training.
That's great. And Mayank, I know you have the same concerns. Tell me what you're deciding between and what you think you're going to be able to do as your interventional training unfolds.
Well, thanks a lot for having me. I think I would echo with Chadi. I think these meetings are the great opportunity of actually seeing what interventional cardiology has to offer. And I think coming to the meeting really helped me kind of streamline and at least see what else can be seen in interventional cardiology that's not available at my program. And I'm really wanting to focus on coronaries to start with, but then I'm trying to decide between peripheral and structural. And I think looking at some of the structural cases and the discussions and the complications that were shown kind of helped me teeter my interest if I really want to be doing that or not. And I think I'm really looking forward to hearing from people who've just been in my shoes just a few years ago and seeing how they made those decisions and how they feel about where they are now. And I think that'll help me more.
Well, I think Abdul, who's just taken a job in Kentucky to do, honestly, everything. He's going to be doing complex interventions, peripheral as well as structural, working at many different hospitals, and he's graduating from Texas Heart. So Abdul, can you speak to Mayank's question directly, and how should interventional fellows that are training build a track for themselves within their own training programs?
Sure. First, thank you so much for having me. It's a great opportunity to meet all those future colleagues and friends. I mean, it's basically depends on the institution where you are trained at. If they have all these tracks available for you. The second thing depends on your interest. If you have interest in TAVR and structural, so I don't mind spending an extra time even at another place to hone the skills and get this training, required training. I was lucky at Texas Heart because we do 2 years program inside the 4 years of whole training. So I got trained on peripheral and then TAVR and structural and also coronaries. But as I said, it's institutional based and your preferences. So if you like structural, for example, you didn't have it in your program, there's no problem spending another year somewhere else and learn that subspecialty. Because I think the future for interventions now is based on subspecialization. You have to have skills to tackle those difficult patients, and we deal with what situation now when you need a TAVR patient who need PCI or need has AAA to be fixed prior to his TAVI. So exactly. So it's becoming complex with time. So.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Pooya, I know very well from UCLA. He's a real inspiration and a phenomenal teacher, and he's going to be coming on to faculty. Where do you see your career unfolding in terms of the tracks of interventional, and how do you think your early career is going to take off?
Sure, Sheila. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to weigh in on this important decision. I think, where you see yourself is important, but it's easier said than done. I think when we start as a interventional fellow, everybody tells you do what you want and what you really love, but how are you really supposed to know what you love, right? You haven't been in that many TAVR cases, you haven't done that many PCIs. So I think my one true message going forward for the incoming fellows is first and foremost, no matter what you're going to do, you're going to be an interventionalist. You're going to be doing PCIs. That foundation is key. Concentrate on that. Become a good interventionalist. And I think once you're a good interventionalist and people see that, opportunities are there. That's the most important thing. The second thing I would say that I've seen as a mistake in other people is thinking that you could do everything. Ultimately, we're all human. You're not going to be the best peripheral interventionalist, PCI, complex PCI, TAVRs, mitral clip. You're not going to be able to do everything. So during that year, try to really figure out how you could focus in what you like to do. And the last thing is, I think a lot of people feel the pressure to make that decision at that point in time. And I don't think that's necessarily a must. I think if you start with a good foundation, you had a lot of procedures under your belt in a busy program, the opportunities to kind of do additional training or go to courses and have the opportunities to do other things are going to be there for you. It's not that you have to make that decision at that point in time. And I think one last important note, honestly, is that talking to a lot of people, I think we're all interventional cardiologists. Many of us are type A personalities and can't stop training. So talking to a lot of my mentors, one of the trouble people get into is specializing too much. And you have to be realistic where you see yourself also living. If you're tied to a geographic region where there's a lot of people there and you get into the trouble of specializing too much and being too subspecialized for certain positions, you could get in trouble in that situation as well. And I know people that have done extra structural and peripheral training and have jobs doing coronary work. So I think being realistic is also really important. And the most important thing is ultimately foundation. Build your coronary skills and don't feel pressure to make that decision at that point in time. I think opportunities will be there for you.
Thank you, Pooya. So Rahul, you have taken a position to do a structural fellowship and you have an excellent mentor. That's unique. Tell us more about that.
Thank you for having me here today. So everyone's made some very insightful comments, and it's very hard to be the fifth person to speak after all the great things that have been said. Let me just briefly make two important points. Number one, mentorship is crucial. We all are very blessed to have great mentors, I'm sure. But having a great mentor, having that motivation, and having a very strong foundation in diagnostic cardiac catheterization is the sort of the linchpin of having any further success as either as an interventionalist or a structuralist or peripheralist. So mentorship is crucial. And number two, you need to translate that mentorship into something. Mentors can only bring you so far. You can bring the horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And to bring it full cycle, I think the one word summary of all of that is imagination. You have to imagine what your passion is, visualize it, taste it, smell it, and then go after it. Many of us are in this critical divide where we're trying to tailor ourselves to what the marketplace or the job needs or wants or requires. And pragmatically speaking, that's very important. After all, we all have to put food on the table and support our families. But I do think that a part of me is a bit of a risk taker, and I'm just sort of imagining my passion and what I love, which particularly is mitral and left atrial appendage structural therapies, and I'm going after it. And it's a huge risk, Pooya, because I very well could end up working a job where I'm not quite using my full skill set. But as I think of it like an act of passion, I'm just going after what I visualize and seeing where the chips fall. So mentorship is key, and you have to translate that mentorship into something and hope for the best.
That's great, thank you. Asim, I also know Asim very well. He trained at Cedars and he came to UCLA to do his interventional training. And I think what I really want to ask you, which I haven't asked anyone, is how impressive it's been to see how much you have published your interventional year. I think you are definitely in the academic arena, and I want to know, as you're going into your early career, you might have to worry about the RVU treadmill. How are you going to maintain your academic status and continue publishing?
Thank you, Sheila, for having me. This is really a good forum. So actually listening to everyone here, I basically went through many of those phases, doing general cardiology, and then during the interventional year. So even before starting residency, I was doing echo research, and I was all for like imaging, echo. Spent like 2 or 3 years doing echo research, and that was my passion. And I continued doing some of that research during residency. And then, when I started cardiology fellowship, just first month in cath lab, and I was just love with, interventional cardiology. And then, I decided to do interventional cardiology. My mentor was surprised, but, he was a great mentor. He basically supported me. He let me, do what I wanted to do, what I wanted to pursue. And then, during the interventional cardiology, with TAVRs, mitral clips, everything going on around me, I was really excited about, doing or pursuing, structural career. And then, but at the same time, I wanted to stay in academics. Wanted to stay in LA area because of family reasons. And because of those things, initially I was planning to pursue structural years, but then the opportunities of staying at UCLA opened up. So then I had to make my decision, what is important, whether I should do a structural year and go to, maybe some small place and work somewhere else, or should I stay at a top tier academic place and, do academic cardiology, interventional cardiology. So it's a tough decision. I think ultimately it comes down to what are your priorities in life. I mean, we talk about like life in cath lab, interventional cardiology, but there is life outside the cath lab too. And for me, that was a big deciding factor, my kids and my family in LA. So that was one of the biggest deciding factors. And in terms of continuing, the research, I think it's really important to have like good mentors, and you need to have a passion for it. I mean, a lot of people do research, but research is done for different reasons. Some people are just doing it, to have stuff published on CV, to have, another step in their academic career. But I think you need to have passion for it. And if you have passion for it and you have good mentors, you can do it. I mean, it's busy during interventional year, but it still is doable. Thank you.
I would like to just comment one thing, Sheila. I interviewed Dr. Rosenfield and Dr. Mahmoud this morning. He's the president of SCAI this coming year, and also Mahmoud will be like the program director for SCAI National Meeting in 2018. They share the same messages you are saying, and they need to hear this, because they really, Dr. Rosenfield told me, we're all ears, we hear your opinion. So I think all what we need to do is just put this in writing, or approach them, or email them, or even call the office and leave a message. Tell them this is what we're concerned about. After I interviewed with Rahul today, I told him like there is no session here how to launch a career in interventional cardiology / structural cardiology. Like Rahul when he graduate, and also Abdul when he graduate, he's gonna hire a PA, a nurse practitioner, or a research nurse. He has to have the administrative skill set beside the clinical skills. So out of the fellowship, having these skills hard to master just out of the fellowship right away. We are not born economists, we are not born administrators. So they should add some of these skill set to our curriculum.
Shadi, I'm so happy you brought that up, because you all are the new face of SCAI. And I think that I'm sitting with the fellows of SCAI and the future FSCAIs, and hopefully one day the masters. And I think that we need to understand that SCAI is the organization that will support all aspects of interventional cardiology, and we can absolutely make it happen by staying involved. So don't forget to follow us on the hashtag SCAI 2016.